Now I had time to bring him back in. But
Technical difficulties.
all right, our guest today is Nick Chindamo, known to most as Nick of North. I'm sure I butchered his name again, but he's a forager, chef, writer, and wild food educator from Prince Edward Island in Canada, and he's an absolute wild food wizard in the kitchen. He's, primarily his work primarily focuses on teaching chefs and foodies how to pay attention to their landscape and how to translate that knowledge that they gather into food that really has meaning. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nick. Woo!
Hey, man, fantastic pronunciation.
Really?
Was it really?
Actually?
You did great. You know how many people butcher that last name, and it's just pronounced exactly how it's spelled. It's said the same way it's spelled. And people put an SH on the front of it for some reason. Chindamo is what it is. Nice to be here with you guys.
Awesome.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you. And I see we already have a few live viewers. I'll have the live chat pulled up. Guys, if you have any questions today, drop them in the live chat and we'll try to get to them toward the end. But yeah, Nick, we're pumped to have you here today. I personally I've been following your journey for quite some time. Really, I think probably like 3 years now, if that's how long you've had your Instagram. That's what it feels like, at least. And I'm really, really always in awe and amazed at the creativity you bring to wild food and cooking. And I think a lot of people listening to this now live and later when we upload it to the audio platforms will really feel the same once they get to hear from you today a bit. So thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thank you. And likewise, too. Like, I appreciate what you guys are doing. This is probably not an easy thing to do. Just put yourself out here like this. I know I feel it. I don't really do many of these podcasts. Why? I'm not sure. Maybe because I just have this feeling of like imposter. Do you know what I mean? Like, why do you want to talk to me? We all have that, I'm sure. But like, here we are, and I'm stoked to talk to you guys because you're into the same things as I am, right? So here we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have quite the story. And to start, I think we should start a little bit like kind of going over that. Can you kind of walk us through your journey from like line cook to becoming a wild food chef who now now you're out there traveling the world really teaching other chefs how to work with wild ingredients, but it wasn't always like that. So what was kind of that journey like?
No, it wasn't always like that. And I wasn't always headed this direction. But really, like, I could, of course, start from when I was a kid and, we'd walk the train tracks and pick blueberries and sorrel from the grass and rhubarb from across the street and all those things that we did when we were kids. But really, my like wild food journey started when I started working in really nice restaurants. I started working in restaurants when I was like 13. Those weren't really nice restaurants, but by the end of high school, they started to become really nice. And of course, I was foraging already before I entered those restaurants. But like when I was working in them, after high school, I it's so funny. I have to like really think about this because there's a lot of like wild food people. I consume their content a lot, like people like Alan Burko and Sam Thayer and all of these people, right, that we admire in the wild food world, right? I hear I should mention I hear like Alan on podcasts, and him and I have such a similar story. It's unbelievable. I was working in wild food restaurants, and I realized that the most sought after ingredients were the ones that were like coming through the back door from this sketchy guy who pulled up in a white van and unloaded onto us, right? These expensive things, they were sought after by the chefs and the chefs of those restaurants, the owners of those restaurants. And who was the one who was going to clean those things? Well, it was me, the line cook, right? So I was touching these things and handling these things from a very young age in terms of like where I was in the restaurant in my cooking career. So I got to know them really well. A lot of them I was already familiar with, but processing them and learning to cook them was a different story. And I also realized that the head chefs of these restaurants didn't always know what they were doing in the first place with these things. Like handling an ingredient is different than just getting an ingredient and bringing it into your kitchen at home and sauteing it and calling it a day, right? They want to impress and show off these things in interesting way. And they were learning as they went. And the foragers that were dropping those things off had no idea what to do with them either. They just knew that there was a dollar value attached to them. So they were harvested, often poorly, tossed into a big bin on top of each other, driven to the restaurant 45 minutes away or whatever, brought to us. And then the chef was like super stoked about it. And I was like, man, these weren't treated very well. Why are you so excited about them? Why are you paying so much money for them?
Right.
It was because they were unique. Nobody else around had them. So they cared about the uniqueness of that ingredient, not necessarily what went into them. But I was there cleaning them. And skipping ahead a little bit to answer your question more clearly, like I had this moment when I was cleaning a big bin of mushrooms that came in through the back door. It was just random mushrooms thrown into a bin. They were all edible, of course, but it was a harvest crate full of mushrooms. I had this feeling while I was cleaning them because they were all super dirty and bashed up and whatever, that it sounds a little bit corny to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. I was not a cook who foraged anymore. I was a forager who cooked, and like my whole trajectory changed working in restaurants. I know how to focus and an intention within the restaurant instead of just trying to cook and learn how to cook. You know what I mean? So that happened early, and I'm blessed for that. I'm happy. I'm lucky that it happened so early in my career, because sometimes people have to wait till they're like, 10, 15 years into their career to figure out what they are actually about in the food industry, right? What they want to focus on. This had happened to me a couple years in. So I ran with that, and I focused on that. And I spent my lunch breaks and before work and after work and all of this time out in the woods and out on the beach and out behind the Walmart next to us, picking stuff from wherever and bringing it to the restaurant, and then teaching myself how to cook with it, and then teaching the chefs how to cook with it too. Skipping ahead, I moved around quite a lot, worked in some really notable restaurants all over the place, and landed at this one restaurant here on Prince Edward Island, like close to a decade ago. And I was hired as a fish cook. I was in charge of breaking down like the 500 plus pound bluefins that came into the back door that were caught that morning, and the dozens of salmon a week, and the big 100 plus pound halibuts, and you get my point. And I, one winter, because we're a seasonal place, maybe about tourist based places, but we are a tourist based place. One winter, because we were closed for a few months, I approached the chef at his house and I said, "Hey, Michael, we need to talk for a moment." And he's like, "Yeah, what's up? Come in." So we sat down and I said, "What I'm saying to you, I spend my time before work, after work, etc., doing this to bring into the restaurant. What do you say I step back from the line and just did this full time?" And you say that to a chef, and what they're usually going to do is be like, "Get out of here, man. You have to go, like, just go peel carrots or something. What are you talking about? I'm not going to pay you for that." You know what he said to me? He said, "I've been waiting for you to ask."
Aww.
Nice.
You know how special that is to hear when you have a passion in someone else. Man, I'm telling you, when you're working in someone else's business and they hire you for a position, and then you say one day, "Hey, what if I didn't do this position and I just built a different one? Would you pay me? Would you pay me more, actually? And then would you just let me do that and build my own schedule and build all of the job, like all that stuff, right?" Usually they'd say no. He was fully into it. Like I said, he's been waiting for me to ask. He said, "On one condition, though, you teach me and the chefs everything." I said, "Bet, no problem, right? I'm into this." So I spent my days, now instead of starting on the line, I brought cooks out with me, and we harvested food, and we brought it back to the kitchen. I showed them how to process it, showed them how to cook it. And then, because of the type of restaurant we farm on 8 acres, and the menu changes every day. Everything changes every day, or it did at the time. We just built dishes around it, and we served them to 80 people that night. and we learned and we progressed. And over time, I brought in countless ingredients that were being served nowhere in the country. And the people that I was serving it to were like interested and appreciative. And even more than that, the cooks that I was working with were like fiending for more information. And the ingredients that we're bringing in were like becoming old to them almost. You know, like for you guys or whoever listening, like a nettle is so special. But like it's a nettle, right? It's stinging nettles. But to someone who's never picked one, that's a stinging nettle. You know what I mean? That's something brand new. Things get old fast. You can't let them get old. So that was a main focus for me, keeping things interesting. Now in comes developing new cooking techniques, taking on their preservation and fermentation program, et cetera, et cetera. One more step further now, just to sort of wrap this up, I started getting calls from restaurants all over the place. And hey, I see what you're doing. Why don't you come show us too? And I'm like, okay. So I go there, I do the same thing. And now here we are in a place that is like really interesting for me because I don't know anyone with my job. And I wouldn't want anything else. Like when people ask me like, where do I see myself in 5 years? It's like right here talking to you guys because I don't I don't need anything else. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. There's like a kind of funky step by step, but you know, ultimately where I am today is like in a very appreciative place, and I've got the opportunity to continue to learn every day. So
it's so cool that you're able to help teach other cooks respect for the plants that they're using, that not everything is coming from like a big box store and it's always plentiful. Like being able to teach tons of people that skill is pretty
well,
cool.
and in a way you're almost, you know, you're bringing it back to what the basics of what a chef once was, you know, really working with those ingredients that humans worked with for most of our existence. And it's cool to hear that there's such an interest in, like, you know, bringing that back in the kitchen. I think that kind of speaks to, you know, where we're going in terms
and I have to add, like, if like my job is not to bring bulk products through the door. That's cool when there is bulk products to bring through the door, but it's okay for me to bring cooks out and bring them back with information and inspiration. So again, kind of corny to say, but sometimes we'll forage information rather than plants or mushrooms. And it's incredible to see, you know, if I leave them at the restaurant, we get back at noon and then they have some lunch and then I watch them work for the rest of the day. Just like the glow in their eyes and on their face and like the feeling that I get from them and the overall vibe is like, yeah, they've been doing something today that they weren't yesterday. And maybe they take it with them. You know, I still get texts from old cooks like every other day, like, can I eat this? What is this? Or look what I brought into my new restaurant, and everybody's stoked about it, you know? So information is okay. It's not always about bulk products.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's so cool to be able to bring excitement to all these people. You know, you're taking someone's 9 to 5, well, not for chefs, but you know, relative 9 to 5, and making it something that's more their lifestyle versus just their job.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
It's super cool. Yeah. And I just want to shout out Mike real quick. Hey, Mike, for coming in, watching live.
Mike always comes.
Yep. Our top live listener, I would say. So, you know, with that, was there really like a specific ingredient or maybe like a moment that you remember that kind of changed how you think about wild food altogether?
Well, I mean, going back to that restaurant, it was a French bistro that I was working in when I had that mushroom cleaning moment, right? That was huge. And they were just different varieties of boletes, but within that, and I didn't tell you this, within that crate of mushrooms were this is crazy to me, but the forager who dropped these mushrooms off said there's a special treat in this crate. He encouraged the chef to take a look through it. And at the same time, I was looking through it too, and I was sifting through it, and I'm like, there's no special treat in here, man. There's nothing like, this is cool, this is great, but like, what's the special treat that you're alluding to here? The chef picked one up. He's like, it's this. And it was what he thought was a matsutake, which didn't like grow in the area. That's what they say. And that's cool. And the forager was like, yeah, you see that? And there's plenty more where that came from. I walked past 100 pounds out there. And I was like, oh, cool, awesome. But that's not a matsutake at all. That's a swollen stalk cat, right? Tricholoma species. Looks like a matsutake, smells like a cucumber, is much, much different, and obviously different. But it was a white mushroom that had like a sort of sandy end, and it was fully enclosed by the veil, and you see it and you're like, oh man, you pick it in similar spots. And I realized in that moment that like the forager didn't really 100% know what he was doing in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was no harm here. It's still an edible mushroom, but if he's going to charge, like $35 a pound or whatever it is for that matsutake, that's not a matsutake. And the chef was going to go after that. There's a problem from all perspectives here. The forager doesn't quite know what they're doing. The chef doesn't quite know what they're doing enough to, or the chef is putting too much trust in someone who doesn't quite know what they're, you know what I mean? There's so many things here that were happening. And in my brain, it was like short circuiting. So I told him that and showed him what was up. And then the chef kind of gave me a weird look, like, oh, maybe I should be thinking about this a little bit more. He felt a little bit silly. And I didn't ever bring it up again because there's no point. What's the point of that? And again, like I said, I had that moment cleaning those mushrooms where I was like, I should be doing something else. I'm more than just like a cook in here in this kitchen. I have more to offer. And don't get me wrong, I've never stopped cooking. Like I've always been like integrated in restaurants and all that sort of thing. But like my primary focus within those restaurants shifted. And there's a lot of like, have you ever worked in a restaurant, either of you guys?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who like just cook and not a lot of people who cook with purpose and intention in mind.
Yeah.
And I realized early, like I said, that you need to have a purpose and intention in what you do. And that goes for everything.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was lucky enough to get mine early. And it was through many things, but me thinking back, that pivotal moment that you mentioned in the question was right there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, cooking is such a cool, like, artistic but scientific, but not realm of things to do, and having that be your full-time job is kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much, like, you can put so much emotion into cooking, but like ultimately if you don't have a balance between everything, art, science, emotion, all of the things, then you're just like, you're gonna have an imbalance in like or you're just, you know what, to put it bluntly, you're never really going to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
You're never really
it's always lacking.
Yeah, and like, it's okay to not be that good at cooking, but if you want to make a career out of it, then like you need to be okay and admit to yourself that like you're not that great. And like maybe you're not going to be like I'm looking at a bunch of books here by a bunch of like legendary cooks, and like you're not going to be that person. And that's okay. That's fine. Find a different path through that same industry, and maybe you can one day teach them something, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How many species do you realistically harvest and or use per year?
In terms of plants or mushrooms, or both?
Well, let's go with both.
Yeah, wild food in general.
Okay. Oh, that's a rough one. All right.
Do you have enough fingers to count?
Yeah. I would say I have realistic years and I have ambitious years, like where I go all out. And some years are dedicated to like research and getting as much as I can, many different species as I can. I've had years where I picked for plants, 700 species.
Holy cow.
That's crazy.
The same year, maybe 200 and something species of mushroom. But on a realistic year, probably between like 150 and like 300 species of plants, something like that, and like maybe 50 species of mushroom that I really like. That's like
Yeah.
a realistic year, and that seems like a massive number to a lot of people, but you know just as well as I, when you get out there, you start like, I know that, right? And you can keep on going, and it accumulates quickly. And when your job revolves around this, and it also happens to be your hobby, all you do is this, right?
Yeah.
Is go out and find things and harvest things and eat things and test things. And so after years and years and years of doing this, I've developed quite a lot of species that I quite enjoy, many that I don't, and I've tasted them all.
So what is your like new species finding, testing, foraging process look like? Like, are you going to a book first, or are you going outside and then, oh, that's a cool plant, and then looking it up? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, good question. It's that second one really.
Yeah.
Usually I break it down by ecosystem. So I'll instead of just randomly going out, I'll choose a specific ecosystem. Say I'll go down to like a riparian area along a riverside, big open area that you can tell used to be entirely engulfed by this river, but has since downgraded to something small. And now there's a big open area with, a tree line attached to it. And this sort of like wet, but also kind of dry environment. This really interesting area is where I go in the early spring. Say I go there. I will make sure that I know every plant there. And I won't leave until I know every plant that I see. And it's this like, there's a spectrum here that I am clearly a part of, and that's okay. I'm good with that. It's amazing. I'm appreciative for that part of my brain that's like hooked on that. But I don't really use like field guides that much. I use online information a lot. I find that field guides are really tough because like they're often regurgitations of like the past field guide written by people who have never really been outside anyways. But like I got Sam's book here, the field guide, and I love that. And I'll use that to like look back at things. And like once I'm pretty certain of what I have, because I'll start narrowing it down by family first, right? And I'll try and find something by the family. A mint with the square stems and all that sort of stuff. And once I get the family, I'll dive deeper into like what that specific plant is using like online things mostly. But yeah, that's like my process. But every year I have a list of plants that I like want to find,
right?
But like never do.
So it's good to have.
Yeah. So like I'll do research beforehand before even finding a plant and know it like the back of my hand, but just have never seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that helps me because then I go out there and then I see it and I'm like, boom, there it is. Because I don't know this plant in this area and I know all of the characteristics of it. So like this is that. And I'll take it home with me, check once more, and boom, here we are.
Yeah.
What?
That's great. Well, before you do that, Nick, let's try real quick to go off of your phone mic, because some people are saying that the audio in your end has been kind of cutting out a little bit. Do you want to try that quick? Just maybe just turn the headphones off and just try to use the phone. Yeah, one sec. I hear a little echo. I'm gonna have to. Let me just. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think that's a lot better. Guys in the chat, let us know if that's coming through a little better now.
I'm gonna keep these on for continuity purposes, but
yeah, I think that's more clear on our end. I think we'll see it once people start replying in the chat if that's similar. But yeah, that honestly is a insane number. I think I don't think I've ever harvested 100 species a year, and you were just saying like 150 to like 250, and I think that's super impressive, and I think that speaks to an extent that you're having to do it every day. That's your job, and you're really having to get creative with it. But it's cool. It's cool, man. I respect that about you, and I encourage anyone to check out your Instagram, because you do get really creative with everything, and just you bring out species that sometimes, I've like faintly remember reading in a book, but never really, seeing any other videos or in any other pages. And I think that's really special about your stuff. So definitely.
You know what's crazy, man? I can, like, these numbers sound like really big and stuff, and they are, I guess, but like when it comes down to it, if I leave the Northeast and go somewhere else, there's so much that I don't know, right? It's a new world. There are plants I've never seen before. I've never even thought to look them up, so I'm a beginner again, and it's like really humbling, because I like am pretty well off here, and then like I said, you go somewhere else and you're not. So this is like a whole lifelong thing that I'm going to be a part of, and I'm not out here to like know every plant in existence and all that. I just know my area really well, and I prioritize that, the understanding of my landscape and the everything that goes into it. So yeah, thanks for saying that, though. I appreciate that.
You're saying you don't want to catch them all.
I mean, I'd be happy to, but like, I don't think
it's impossible. Is it? No, it's impossible. So, and you've mentioned landscape a few times now, and I know a big thing that you like to teach is what you call landscape literacy. So I'd love to touch on dig a little deeper into that. How would you define landscape literacy in your own words, and like, why does it even matter?
Why does it matter, right? Well, landscape literacy, to put it simply, it's one's ability to read a landscape and interpret that. Now, what does it mean to read a landscape? It's to understand everything that's happening on the landscape. Now, I'm not like a naturalist where I study like every interaction on the landscape. I'm really focusing on this from a food perspective. I focus on this from a food perspective, and that drives me every day to look for flavor. Okay, so I look for flavor on the landscape. Landscape literacy. If you take someone out on the landscape and you say, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this, and then you step back and say, okay, what were all of those things? They likely have no idea what you're talking about. They won't remember it. They won't connect to it if you're stepping back. But if you're integrated into the landscape and you go and touch certain things, and you kneel down on the ground and you say, this is this because of this. This is growing right here because of this. People connect to it much differently. And you would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, the benefit and that this has on an individual who works in a restaurant specifically. When you learn to pay attention to your surroundings, wherever you are, that translates right to the line. You're a better cook immediately. You're more attentive. You pay more attention to details. And when you connect to things around you, you start to notice trends everywhere. You're in an area and you know that a few things grow in that area, and then you go somewhere else and you end up in another area that looks just like that other area. You're like, I know what grows here too, because it did over there. Or that is growing there, and I know what's associated with that, so it's likely going to be here too. And if it's not, it will be. You start to develop these little clues, you get these context clues that you take with you into your everyday life. So teaching chefs like how to do that, landscape literacy is like a prime component of like how I interact with cooks, like just kind of going through that. But it's really like how to pay attention. I teach them how to pay attention, and it's not as easy as you think to teach an ADHD cook how to pay attention in nature.
I mean, in general, I think that's hard for most of us these days. We're so far removed from even just realizing that these things are out there, these different components of nature, because we're just bombarded by the digital world all day. So. Yeah,
man, I'll tell you, on that note, that's such a good point. We are bombarded by our digital world, and in restaurants these days, there is so much influence that you're taking in if you're online. And you're constantly like copying dishes from other people because you see them pop up online. There's so much influence that is like a negative thing. I mean, it can be positive, but if you're serving it to people, like if you're online, if you're on Instagram and you're scrolling and you see a dish and you're like, oh, I'll save that. That looks cool. And then you go to your restaurant and you mimic that dish and serve it to guests as your own. Like you're not being creative. You're not being attentive. You're just taking someone else's idea. If you disconnect from that for a while and you go out into nature or wherever outside, and you start paying attention to what's outside, you start to build these dishes on your own based on what's growing together in that ecosystem. Flavors that naturally go together, textures that naturally go together, visuals and color schemes that naturally go together. It inspires you much deeper than just using your phone to find inspiration, and you create longevity in your creative process too with that.
Yeah. That's something I strive to do a lot more. Even just go out with a, not with your phone, but with just a journal and just like observe and write things in like physically down. I think that's huge.
It's so much more fun to make like mistakes with flavor risks too. I like recipe books. I think I've opened 3 of them in my life. And I've made 2 recipes maybe, but I have way more fun making whatever I feel like making in the moment with whatever it is that I have around me to make it with.
Recipes are cool. Recipes are cool, but they're often very wrong. They're not well tested, especially in wild food books. They're not well tested. There's not enough emphasis on the ingredients themselves that go into it. Like how many times have you like read a recipe, and this is no shade to anybody, it's just, it is what it is. How many times have you read a recipe and it's like, pick a green, your favorite green, Dame's Rocket, say.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
There you go. It's because it's delicious, right?
Awesome.
And the recipe for that is to take it home, and maybe not this one in particular, it might be a bad example, but just humor me here. You take it home and you blanch it in 2 changes of water, and then you throw it into a pan with butter and salt, and then you serve it, and it's delicious. That's what they say, right? What you have is a pile of mush that's seasoned poorly.
Yeah.
So butter, there's no emphasis on the butter or salt that goes into it, but they want to preach the pristine area that you pulled the Dame's Rocket from. But the butter and salt came from the dollar store bin. It's white. It tastes like nothing. It's full of seed oils and all of this weird stuff. And you just are supposed to dress your food with that and call it delicious. Like, it's not delicious, I'm sorry. And often butter and all of this fat and stuff mutes flavors. Doesn't make it as clear anymore. It just muddles things, and now you just taste butter or you taste fat. So recipes are like an interesting thing that once you start working in like higher level restaurants, you realize that recipes are like very, like, unless you're doing something like really intricate that requires a serious recipe, anything else is just like you push it aside and you cook instinctually. You know how to season, you appreciate the flavor of a wild food or a food in general. You understand that bitterness is bitterness for a reason, and that's also another flavor, right? A delicious flavor, in my opinion. You don't need to soak everything out and blanch it till it tastes like nothing, and that's really important. So I don't know how I got there, but here we are.
So on that, you just mentioned the bitterness, and that is a common thing. I mean, foragers know, to make it a bit like relatable to the home chef, they'll be working, or they'll be harvesting a green, get all excited about it, dandelion, just pick a simple one, and then it's like bitter. Well, what can we do to kind of counteract that bitterness a bit and treat it more as a flavor we can incorporate into our meal instead of something
to get out of it?
Yeah, to get out of it.
Yeah, good question. I mean, bitterness is it's a staple in so many cultures, right? Like the in the early spring in Japan and here on Prince Edward Island, I think it's just me, but they harvest the giant butterbur, right? Fuki buds. I don't know if you've seen those before, but they're intensely
I don't think
bitter.
so, no.
Yeah, they're really beautiful little things.
Let me see if I can pull up a
Yeah,
thing
please
for
do.
it. Butter burr. Butter
Giant
burr.
butterbur, or in Japan, I think it's Fukinoto,
Okay.
Fukinoto.
Yeah.
And in the early
Okay.
spring, they harvest these along the riverbeds. I think it's an escaped garden plant.
Yeah. I'll try
Yeah,
to pull it
but
up as
it's
you.
intensely bitter, and I love every second of it because it tastes like you're eating something, right? You're eating something for real, and it's making you feel good. But any notes of bitterness, people avoid things. Ugh, it's gross. It has bitterness. It's gross, right? I think it's an acquired taste for a lot of
Mm.
people. There you go, boom. So you get it in the bud form, second row, furthest from the right on the right. That's like perfect.
Yeah.
Um, so you harvest that, and there are ways to treat it. They would steam it, or they would um,
Like this right
do
here. That's that
uh,
looks
yeah, the bud itself on the inside. So like one down from
okay.
that photo is a better example. Yeah, that one.
The flower. Bud?
No, I didn't see that
No.
up close. So if that was closed, like a fully
Yeah.
closed one, but you get my point there,
Here's a
right?
better one. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's just
Yeah.
emerging. So that's a delicacy in Japan, an
That's
absolute
cool.
delicacy, and it grows probably. Well, I don't know if it grows near you, but it grows everywhere. It grows all over the place. Someone near you probably has it in their garden.
I've
But your
never
question was
seen it,
about
but
dandelions, and I brought that one up because bitterness is present in both. One is much more bitter than the other, but harvest timing matters, and I mean that in many ways. When it comes to dandelions, like I remember last year I was harvesting the crowns of dandelion to ferment for future use. I harvest them when they're tight and young, and I posted something online about it, and someone commented on it saying, "That's cool, but you wasted the rest of the dandelion."
no, I
And I'm
didn't.
like, "All right, but like, why do you say that? Like, what makes you say that?" And he was concerned about the leaves, the perfectly good leaves, and they looked beautiful. That's great, but that plant was getting ready to flower, right? So those leaves are going to be even more bitter than they were 2 weeks ago or a week
Yeah.
ago. Also, it was the middle of the day in full sun. Plants concentrate their bitter compounds in the sun like that too, right? So if I harvest dandelion in the early morning, or any green for that matter, if I harvest lettuce from the garden in full sun, that core is going to be more bitter than sweet, like it would be if you harvest it early in the morning. Or
Interesting. That's something I've never heard. Like I always knew, get the dandelion in the shade, get it if it's not growing in full sun in general, but I didn't know that on a morning to midday basis that can
try
change.
it. Try it. Try it with
That's crazy.
even something like purslane or like a hosta from the garden. Get it get it young, like look at it and be like, "Oh, okay, that's perfect harvest time. I'm ready for it." And then pick it, and the one beside it, leave it and pick it later in the day. And then try them beside each other and watch what happens.
Huh.
It's a noticeable difference. And with dandelions especially, it's very prominent. Of course, there's always going to be a bit of bitterness, which again I really enjoy. But going back, harvest timing matters, time of year, what stage of growth the plant is in, and then literal time of day matters.
That's
Mm.
crazy.
Mm.
That's something you don't read in books. And also
You
like
would
that.
you do though in like older books, like if you read something that you have to translate from Italian or whatever,
Yeah.
there it will be like harvest this in the early morning,
Wow.
but it doesn't tell
Because
you why.
yeah, I mean all of the bigger like I don't remember ever reading in any of the like modern foraging books though. That's something
Mhm.
we're gonna try, but that is something, and also you really only that kind of nuance and detail you only get to if you're out there and really observing and being
Mhm.
really uh, conscious and present. Kind of like how you were saying earlier, really spending time out there trying to disconnect from all the other
Noise.
noise
Yeah.
and
But
really
also
just
working with restaurants, right? A
yeah.
restaurant wants the highest quality thing. And so it's up to me to say, I harvested this at the perfect time. Is there another moment in time where it's even better for some reason, which led me
Mm,
to figure that out, right?
yeah,
So dandelion was just an easy example, but even something as simple as lettuce on the farm, it's harvested in the morning, not in the middle of the day. The rest of the harvest happens in the morning, not in the middle of the day. And it's key.
and deliciousness. Really, it is. Dan Barber talks on this a little bit. And I'm not sure if it's in his book, The Third Plate, or just I have heard him speak on something similar. But he's not a farmer, but he understands food and deliciousness ultimately. You familiar with Dan Barber?
Yeah, a little bit, not
Yeah.
hugely, but yeah.
Upstate New York, Blue Hill Farm, fantastic representation of a farm to table chef, and someone who really didn't start, but pushed this farm to table deliciousness movement in North America. But yeah, I heard him talk about that at some point, and it just kind of like gave me more information. I was already thinking about it, but it gave me more. So
That's cool.
Mm.
So the bitterness though, is there anything in the kitchen you like to pair it with to make it like
Less bitter.
maybe not even less bitter, but more like exciting or like more part of the dish, something
Sure. Well,
acceptable almost.
Step one is embrace it, right? Step one is embrace it, but also cook well and intentionally. You're never gonna like counteract the bitterness. It's gonna be there. Like a lot of people say, like add sugar or something sweet to balance the bitterness or something like that. It doesn't happen that way. Yeah, it's gonna be bitter, and now it's also gonna be sweet, and then it's also gonna be whatever else you add. So you can now make it a fun experience in your mouth and on your taste buds by understanding how to hit all of those components, right? All the parts of your tongue and in your mouth that understand deliciousness, or that give you the feeling of deliciousness. So in your cooking, you should be seasoning that way and cooking that way. You want to cook them so that there's still texture to them. Like, who likes an overcooked asparagus that's mush? You don't, right? You want heat to touch it for 20 seconds, and that's it. Dandelions are similar. You don't need to cook them for an extended amount of time. Really, you just wilt them gently. You season with a drop of vinegar, really high quality salt, and then you mix them into whatever else you're doing, or you eat them just like that, right? You can get as creative as you want, but if you're thinking just for simplicity's sake, how can I eat a dandelion on a fork and make it delicious? Harvest at the right time, at the right stage in the plant's growth, the right time of day. Take it to the kitchen and clean it well. Clean it well intentionally. Season it intentionally with high quality ingredients, high quality vinegar, high quality salt. If you're cooking with oil or fats, then make sure that's high quality as well. But understand that you don't need to bombard it with butter and fat to make it more delicious. You can make it more muted and technically less delicious by hitting it with all this fat, because it'll kind of mute a lot of the flavor of it. But if you want to taste it and have a delicious dandelion, just take all those things to heart and keep them in mind when you're cooking.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Does that answer your question, kind of?
Yeah. No, I think it does. I think that it's definitely that the harvest timing is something to really pay attention to, because that's where it all starts, right? I think that's the biggest. And what I like about your work too is that most foragers, including myself, I wouldn't say most, but I think there's foragers out there like myself who I care about, getting a lot of one ingredient. I care about, food that's going to like replace something in the kitchen, make me feel full, give me some calories too. But you really I feel like you put this huge emphasis on aromatics and flavor. So why shouldn't foragers ignore aromatics and flavor, the potential like of those wild plants and mushrooms? And what are some ways we can like harness that, creatively, or, just in the kitchen?
There's so many ways to approach this, because I don't, like I said, I don't focus on picking things in bulk because I don't necessarily need to. If you want to pick things in bulk to freeze and put away for later, that's a whole other thing. But like I said, I focus on flavor, right? I search for flavor on the landscape for restaurants primarily. For a restaurant right now that I'm really focused on, and they want deliciousness, and they want to figure out how to make things that they're cooking in the restaurant more delicious. Well, this is where learning to cook comes in handy, because when you really know how to cook, you realize that flavor is more than just what hits your tongue. Right? There's so much more to it. Aroma is more than half of it. So why wouldn't you include some sort of an aromatic while you're cooking? And this doesn't always have to mean you season with dried bee balm or fresh thyme or whatever it is. Those things add aroma, but sometimes you don't need to include a physical component into the eating process at all. You can just include aroma. I consider that a seasoning. Let me give you an example. If you have really beautiful beets, you guys like beets?
Love beets.
Yeah. So if you have a really beautiful beet and you pop it into the oven, you bake it for whatever, an hour or 45 minutes on 350 or whatever the temperature is until it's getting tender, and then you take it out and you peel it and you eat it. It's great. But there's a note that you're missing out on, and that's like an additional aromatic. And this doesn't overcomplicate things. It just helps to season. So do you guys harvest meadowsweet?
I haven't.
We played around with it at the Wild Harvest Festival, but I have never like went out and harvested it myself.
The flowers are what people are all about. Meadowsweet flowers. It's awesome. But the leaves are extraordinary. They are such a good aromatic, and you don't eat the leaves. You don't eat the leaves. It's like kind of medicinal to eat the leaves. Yeah. But the aroma that they impart when they hit a little bit of heat is like, it's like honeydew melon with this like really interesting like eucalyptusy minty kind of thing going on. It's fantastic. But I use things like that, or other aromatics that is similar, to like wrap that beet completely and then bake it the same way. And then over time, that hour, whatever, you take it out of the oven and then you rest it and you let it sit and you open that up. The aroma that comes off of it is mind-boggling.
I bet.
It is so, so delicious without even eating it. It's delicious. You know that. And that flavor is also like water soluble, right? And the water in the beet is absorbing that aroma, that flavor through aroma. So now you cut these beets open, it has a great aroma, but when you taste it, it also has this background note that you're just like, why is there like this little floral thing going on? Why is there something more interesting to these beets? Well, that's a prime example of like how you can level up your cooking by just incorporating wild aromatics into it. All over the world. I was just reading the other day about, I forget the name of this dish, but in Italy, in the south, they pick a certain myrtle. Here I would use bog myrtle or sweet gale, if you heard of that. And they take a chicken and they put it in water with all of this myrtle, and they just simmer that chicken until it's perfectly cooked. They take that chicken out and then they eat it. But the flavor that aromatic that they imparted is, one, delicious, but two, also the flavor of their local terroir that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So when you eat that, you have, one, a taste of deliciousness, but two, a taste of place that you wouldn't otherwise have. So that's why I cook with wild aromatics. And there's so many other layers to this. We haven't even talked about like how you can actually use aromatics like physically, like say like catkins of certain trees or bushes to use as like pepper or baking spice replacements, right? Using these aromatics help in your cooking. They'll make you a better cook. Period.
So you're saying basically dehydrate some of these, grind them up, use them like a spice. I mean, that's how we use the aromatics we buy and like spices we buy at the store, right? So that's one way. Right? Yeah, that's what they are. Yeah, it's one way to do it, to harness that. And then also like extracts, I assume, is that a way you like to pull that flavor out of some of these? I'm thinking maybe even twigs and things you wouldn't really incorporate into food you would eat, but you want that flavor out of there.
Yeah, I make a lot of. Yeah, totally. There's many ways to approach this one too, so I'll just kind of hit it from both directions here. You said twigs. Let's go with twigs. All right.
Yeah.
Let's look at yellow birch, blackcurrant wood. Right. these aromatic trees, plants, bushes, all of these things. If you harvest those branches at the right time, even like spruce and pine, if you harvest these branches at the right time and you take them through a certain process that harnesses their flavor and aroma into fat, you can now season things with that fat. So say in my pantry, a staple for summer vegetables and seasoning those is an oil made from blackcurrant wood. And it is extraordinary. It is one of the greatest flavors that I have in my repertoire. Now, it's an easy thing to make. It's not an easy thing to make well. So I don't know how much detail you want to go into on that process, but because I work with restaurants, I have access to technology in the kitchen that help me impart flavor deeper into things. So that's just one example of how I can. Hey?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's interesting. I think it's just good to hear, for people to hear, without getting into the weeds of how to actually make it, that there is flavors out there beyond what you usually just harvest and eat, or just like find in a lot of foraging books, that is overlooked because of that, but you can extract those flavors out of there and get real creative with it, as long as obviously it is an edible species.
Yeah.
But you would say, so fats is a great flavor carrier in that way, like making some sort of oil, maybe like making I'm thinking also when you said that, like a butter, making like an herb type butter. Alcohol is probably another good one to pull.
Alcohol's great.
Yeah. And then vinegar, is that probably the
Sure.
other one you'd use?
If I was going to go into alcohol, I would approach it from a traditional like bar perspective, but I would also approach that from a vinegar perspective. So if I'm making a vinegar from scratch instead of just infusing one in something, which you can totally do, I would kind of skip the lead up process to making alcohol and just go to a high proof, high quality, no preservatives alcohol. And I would infuse my aromatic in there. And then I would convert that alcohol using like a bubbler system. You don't necessarily have to, but it does a quick job of making vinegar. From alcohol into vinegar, and it harnesses that flavor really well. And the flavor doesn't seem to deteriorate as easily as when you incorporate it into a straight vinegar. Now, I should also say that there are other things that you can extract from plants that aren't necessarily for flavor or aroma. What about things like tannins, right?
Oh, right.
In the early spring, one of the first things that I go after, aside from these like bitter, delicious greens, is the young leaf shoots of white oak. So oak, when the leaves come out, they're like kind of clustered, right? Before they spur off into individual leaves, they're like kind of clustered together. I'll pick those clusters and I'll make a very, very strong vinegar with those leaves. And that's cool to use. It has its own like flavor. I don't know if you've ever tried to eat an oak leaf before, but like, I don't expect you to. I don't really expect many people have, but truthfully, it has its own distinct flavor that is delicious. Now, that's not what I'm necessarily after. What I'm after is the water-soluble tannins within those young oak leaves. Now, the leaves, when they're very young, are much higher in tannins than they are in when they're full grown. Now, what would you use tannins for? You ever put a grape leaf in a pickle?
Yeah, pickling.
Do you know why?
It firms it up a bit. Firms up.
Keeps it crisp, right?
It crunchy. Yeah, crunchy. Yeah.
So what happens when that grape leaf is no longer available?
Then
you can't pickle anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
so one of the first things I do,
you don't get the crunchiness, I guess. Yeah.
And who wants to eat a cucumber that's mush?
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the first things I do in the early spring is preserve something to be able to preserve something later. So all I need now is this high concentration of oak leaf vinegar that's extremely high in tannins. I need 2 tablespoons of that in a jar. And that's my tannins that I've incorporated into my pickling liquid, right? To pickle anything. And now I have enough tannin within there to keep it crisp. And I don't need to put physical leaves in there. I don't need to do anything. I just have it in my fridge. I leave it there. And then every year I make a new batch. And all you need, like I said, is a couple of teaspoons or tablespoons even of that. And this background note of oak leaf is there, and it's very pleasant, if you notice it at all. And ultimately what you're getting from it is the tannins, which are contributing to more deliciousness in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great example.
That's a cool method, yeah.
Yeah, of using something that most people just overlook for a really like traditional process, you know. And I always, when I see your things on Instagram, because I see you're working a lot with vinegars and something like that, and extract that's, you know, maybe not alcohol based. How do you know when those things are no good anymore? Like, you know, I'm thinking myself, I'll make a ferment, I'll make a pickle, I'll put it in the fridge, we start eating it, we eat most of it, but then you have a little bit left in the bottom, like, and then at some point I'm like, I don't know if this is still good to eat. Well, if you're working with all these, you're saying you're doing this months before, maybe even a year before, you kind of have a way of testing whether, you know, these liquids you make, these extracts, are still good.
My nose and my mouth.
Just, you know, okay. Yeah.
I have one thing that most people, and this is not saying anything about you, don't take it this way at all. In general,
No, I mean,
most
it's
people,
so personal.
No, like most people, when they're getting into preservation, fermentation, putting food away, they don't really trust themselves. As much as you think you trust yourself, you don't, because you're questioning your process. If you were clean, you had the correct acidity or salt levels, and you know what smells good and what tastes good and what doesn't, you will be fine. You will be fine. You just have to trust yourself. But like I said, it doesn't, I get it. We're kind of bred to, like, don't even look at something in the wild if it's toxic or poisonous, because it'll, you know, kill you and your whole family attached to it or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that goes into this. We're just like there's so much fear that's instilled in us, that I don't necessarily agree with. So people who, this is going to sound crazy, but people who come out with me, I'm going to say it anyways, people who come out with me in the into the field, cooks especially, they're like kind of like, oh God, what's happening right now? Because we'll hit a plant, I'll be like, I don't know what that is, let's go eat it and find out. And then we start eating it because we don't know what it is, because we want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing to promote? Probably not. So I don't really talk about it that much, but you got to know the rest of it. I trust myself really well. And what I encourage people to do is, especially in the field when they're trying to learn whatever plants, just plants in general, learn backwards. So learn the poisonous or toxic things in your area, like the back of your hand, before anything else. And there's not a lot of undiscovered plants in your area. I can say that right now. They're all pretty much discovered, right? It's not like a mushroom where you can find a new species tomorrow. All the plants are known in your area. They should be, at least. And so if you study your area really well and understand the half dozen that can actually harm you in your area, most of which require quantity of ingestion to actually harm you, you develop this like trust in yourself that's not like outlandish, where you're like out there just eating everything because you know that there's poison hemlock over there and it's not over here. You know what I mean? It's not like that. But you have this trust in yourself to take things, identification one step deeper, easier. When it comes to fermentation and preservation of foods and stuff, it's the same thing. If you know legitimately how to ferment food, the safety measures behind it, and everything that goes into the process, then you will be okay. You're not going to make a mistake. The only mistake you might make is if it's not delicious, because you added too much stuff into it, or like you took it you did it too long, or you harvested that ingredient at the wrong time, or countless things, right?
Right.
No, I think obviously learning how to do it well before you start experimenting, like you, and then also like trusting yourself is huge. And I remember when I, like last year, 2 years ago, I was just starting to learn cow parsnip. I remember I was sending you, like, because you were working with them a lot, like for some idea help, I think, and you're like, just got to trust yourself. And I'm like, you He's right about it.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
dude,
I
cow
knew-
parsnip too. Cow parsnip's a crazy one because like people are terrified of it. People are terrified of the carrot family in general. There's nothing really to be scared of if you know your poisonous ones, right? But cow parsnip can taste different in different places too, and it generally does taste different in different places. For example, I have this friend who lives in Newfoundland, and he's a great forager, and he picks a lot of stuff. He's like he does what I do over there, and he was unfamiliar with cow parsnip. This was last year, the year before. He was doing the same thing that you were doing with me, just send the picture, the message, what is this? This is what I think it is, right? And I'm like, yeah, and this is how you cook it. And he takes it to a kitchen and he cooks it with the chef. And he's like, how do you eat this? This tastes like soap and it's disgusting. And then I go out that same afternoon and I cook it and I eat it. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This tastes like celery and carrots with this interesting background flavor. It's great. And he's like, no, this is not it. This is not it. So then he avoided it entirely. And I'm like, man, if I get over there and figure this out, I can tell you if this tastes different than mine naturally, or you're just cooking it wrong, or you're harvesting it wrong, or something. People see a lot of the stuff that I do online. They ask me for a recipe or a process, and I tell them, and then they try it themselves, and they're like, it didn't work. And I'm like, sorry, man, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's so much more that goes into this than just like 2 tablespoons this, 1 teaspoon this, cook for 4 minutes. You know, it's not like that. There's so much intuition with wild food and cooking it specifically. You have to learn before anything how to cook, truly how to cook. And then you start to see these ingredients for what they are, which are parts of greater families and pieces of plants individually. You know, like Dame's Rocket, like we talked about earlier, has so many pieces that I eat during the year. It's not just the leaf, right? The unopened flowers, the open flowers, all of these pieces.
Flower buds are incredible.
Yeah, they are. And you know what they are? They're broccoli, right? They're in the same family as broccoli. Broccoli is just an unopened flower head that we've just turned into this vegetable that we see in the supermarket. How many other unopened flower heads are there in your area? Hundreds, right? So once you now start to analyze things that you see, ingredients on the landscape, for what they are, literally a piece of a plant and a part of a family, you can use things as references now. How would you cook a head of broccoli? How would you cook a carrot? How would you cook a green pea? You know, and then you can translate that into these new ingredients for you, and learn to make them delicious instead of relying on me or somebody else to tell you a process that you don't 100% understand in the first place. No shade, just is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's great motivation.
Yeah, it makes me think. I made this stew a little while ago, and my brother was over, and he was like, "Oh, this is amazing! You have to teach me how to make this." And I was like, "I have no idea how I made it." So I kind of like I had to go and think back and go, "Okay, what did I put in there?" So I wrote him down like the ingredients. I don't think I put like 1 cup of because I don't know. So I just kind of put guesstimates in there and said, put it in the oven at this temperature for the day. Thinking, he would stir it and, check it and do all this stuff. And I was like, I usually leave mine in there for like 8 hours and I come back and it's usually pretty good. He burnt the crap out of it. Yeah, it was just like the whole thing, but the intuition, it's so hard to backtrack and teach
out the window.
That. Yeah,
out the freaking window. It's gone. I feel like people, like when they ask for a recipe, they do it literally. And this is really why a lot of books, I'm looking at a couple in particular, don't work. They're really interesting and stuff, but like they just don't work. Not because they're not right, but because people aren't right for that recipe or for that specific, you know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, it's like your pinch of salt is probably different than my pinch of salt. My pinch of salt is like a pinch of salt, versus other people is just a little tiny something. So it's
in restaurants we have different types of pinches. So we have like a 1 finger, a 2 finger, and then a full pinch for different seasonings, right? And you do that at different times during the cooking process, which is a whole other thing. when you add ingredients into something and when you season them will make something different than your brother's, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because he did things, he waited till the very end to season everything, so nothing got seasoned all the way through, right? Or
Yep.
you seasoned when the onions hit and then when the meat hit again, and then everything else kind of stewed in that. There's so many ways that you can go astray when following a
Totally.
recipe if it's not written literally. So all respect to people who do write and test their recipes, because there's a lot of them, but there's also a lot who don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
So I want to just look at some things people are saying in the chat here real quick. So Food Forest Permaculture said greens, lamb's quarters, stinging nettles, dandelions, fiddleheads, listing all the cool plants they harvest in BC.
There's that one, the cattail sheets and lemon butter. What's that?
Yeah, cattail sheets, lemon butter, put in water first and allow the water evaporate. Cook until tender and add butter, let melt.
Mhm.
This is like
See, that one didn't even
recipe.
mention add salt, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. I also see Mike was saying, he was asking if you've ever made vinegar yourself. Yeah, we covered that. Yeah, he's definitely made a lot of vinegars. And you do like to also like preserve ingredients in vinegar, right?
Yeah.
Or do you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
not
I guess
necessarily
that,
like a pickle, but like
yeah,
it kind of is pickled in its own
yeah,
way, right? So there's two layers to that. You can preserve something in vinegar for the vinegar, or you can preserve something in vinegar for the vinegar and the ingredient, right?
yeah,
So it's not wasting an ingredient if you're just putting it in there. Like you harvested these, I don't know, whatever berry you like at the perfect moment and put them into vinegar so that your vinegar is fantastic. And then you didn't have a use for the berries, so you got rid of them. Just no, you don't. That's fine. That's totally cool. You know what I mean? But also, you can use those berries for acidity now in anything. Now they're going to be a
right,
little bit sharp and flat because there's no salt or no seasoning attached to it, really. So you're going to need to do something to them afterwards. It's not enough to just store fresh berries. We'll just stick with that example in vinegar and then just eat those berries after and expect them to be like fully delicious. They'll be okay, but they'll be short-lived on your palate and quite flat because they're not actually seasoned. So now you can add that into things as like a base for a paste of some kind in a mortar and pestle, like a little teaspoon of miso, some really nice honey, and then those vinegar preserved berries muddled up really nice and then brushed on some meat while you're grilling it. Sounds fantastic.
oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean? And then you'll
so
have the
good.
saltiness, the savoriness, you'll have the sweetness naturally, and you'll have that char and smokiness from whatever you're grilling, and that's
Right.
you don't need anything else. Like the effort went into the seasoning, and often these vinegar preserves will help to make that seasoning. And then you don't
yeah,
need to serve it with anything. You don't need to like, and then what do you add? And then what do you da-da-da? It's done. It's delicious
right,
as it is, right? Because so
yeah.
much effort went into the seasoning component of it.
Plus, if you do use that berry, for example, that was in the vinegar, it might be muted, but you're still also going to add a flavor you wouldn't have gotten if you just added the vinegar by itself,
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
Yep, totally.
it's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, aronia is a great example, right? Aronia berries
berries, yeah,
are great just preserved in vinegar like that. They're not super sweet. They're actually pretty tart. They match that tartness of the vinegar, so they don't get more sour. They just get sour differently, less
yeah,
tannic, a little bit softer, and more like bright in acidity. And then you can use those many ways. Again, with grilled things is fantastic. Just because we're sticking with these preserved fruits, they're just great with
yeah.
grilled things. But you can go a totally different direction if you want, and
I mean, even
add a
honestly,
little.
even
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say add a little acidic pop to your oats or your granola in the morning. That's great.
I was about to
Some
say like
ice
a vanilla
cream.
ice cream, like
Ooh.
could be really cool.
You guys get it? See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a pickled plum, umeboshi.
Yeah.
Umeboshi.
Yep.
Going on ice cream. Oh man, or corn.
Silly, right? So freaking good.
Yeah.
So
it
good.
blows my mind. It's so good.
So Connor here was asking, how do you learn if not by trying and failing? A recommended book or class or online video series, or you just got to show up day after day and keep trying?
How do you learn if not by trying and failing? Yeah. How do you learn without trying? Like if you're not trying and failing?
Yeah.
You can use, I'm not sure if he's asking for a book recommendation or a class or online video series, but like there's so much out there for video series, especially, even though he doesn't cover like a huge swath of specific plants and stuff, he still does. But for like ideology around plants and harvesting and stuff, Adam Harrington is really good. Learn Your Land,
Yeah.
fantastic, right? Alan's got a ton of information. Like this book here is really
Great,
good if
great
anyone
book.
doesn't have it. Flora, it's really approachable too. Like it's not, doesn't have a ton of complicated recipes and all that sort of stuff in it. What else do I have here? For like beverages and stuff, Pascal, really good, right?
Yeah.
Pascal Baudot is really, really good. For overall, is one that I was going to show you, but I'm not going to anymore. You know, Sean Sherman's really good. Turtle Island,
Yeah.
fantastic book. Has a lot of ingredients in there. Doesn't really go into a ton of detail on the ingredients specifically, but more so the philosophy behind why you should use these ingredients. That helps a lot in cooking. Knowing why you should use them and when you should use them makes you like just better overall. So yeah, but then like, yeah, you got to show up day after day and keep trying. If you keep failing, don't fail again by just trying blindly. Figure out what you did. Break the process down. Why did you fail? Like you don't need to fail twice all the time. You don't need to fail 3 times. You can easily fix things if you, 1, keep things simple in the first place, and 2, write down your processes. Write down your processes.
I think that's huge in cooking, that a lot of people, when they're doing it at home, just disregard, you as a chef, you're obviously like trying to reproduce what you make, right? But like people at home, I think, could really benefit from that as well, to kind of get that consistency.
Yeah, my focus is on ingredient quality most of the time, and then treating those things really simply. So some of my stuff looks like people would say, oh, it's complicated or it's whatever, but like the complicated part is the processes to get the seasonings correct, and then the ingredients that you're harvesting yourself most of the time are treated very simply and just seasoned with those things. So that's what levels up my cooking. It's the ability to season in unique and interesting ways. And that's what I teach chefs in the restaurant too. Like you don't need to add a million garnishes, and like you don't need to just like bombard things with fat and oil and salt and all of these things. You can get flavor much more cleanly by simplifying, putting emphasis on what you're seasoning it with.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you have a plant or a mushroom that you think is just kind of wildly underrated?
Underrated?
Yeah, underrated, that you're just like, people really need to be using this, but they're either hesitant or they just don't want to.
I have one. I have one
yours?
I have one that I think you would probably want to talk about, and that's the little puffball mushrooms. I saw you posting about those.
Yeah, those are underrated for sure.
And it's something you don't really see ever people cooking with.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. Like the little like gem-studded puffballs, those little guys, they grow by the 1,000 in a little area. They're great. They're like, if you cook them well, like cook them well as in cook them nicely, treat them well, they're like eating mushroom flavored marshmallows.
So what does that mean for you? Like, because like most people, I think they pick the big Bovis mushroom.
That's what I've
balls.
tried. Yeah.
They'll cut them like into steaks or try to grill them. What about like, how do you cook those little ones? How do you approach that?
Last year I was harvesting them, and I was just like cleaning them really well, very simply, and I would just like score one side of it so that they didn't like puff up when I cooked them. Dress them really simply to no fat or nothing really, until I was actually about to cook them, because they just soak up fats and they turn into like sponges. But then I just skewer them and put them on the grill and just cook them really nicely over coals. And as they go, I was brushing with like a little bit of a mushroom glaze. It was mushroom garum and a little bit of honey and a pinch of salt. And I would just brush them with that and brush them with that and brush them with that. And they would caramelize, and the inside would stay nice and juicy, and it wouldn't puff up because I made that slight incision. And that was it. I took them off and I was just eating them like that. They were just like fantastic little vegetables, not vegetables,
That's
mushrooms.
awesome. And
Yeah,
to my
so good.
and people should definitely check again, but because I haven't done much with them, but if I remember correctly, all puffballs are edible. I'm pretty sure. I don't
Well, there's
think-
like, yeah, there's like there's things that you can like an earth ball is no good, right? If it's white inside and you can identify it as a puffball, then it's an edible variety. But like something like an earth ball that looks just like a puffball, but it's like yellowy. You cut it open, it's black inside. You seen those before?
I haven't seen those. No.
Yeah, those are
I'll
no
have to look
good.
that
Those
up.
will get you.
Mm.
Those will get you sick. They're not poisonous, but they're highly toxic.
Yeah.
Which there's a big difference in. But yeah, I mean, if you can identify it as a puffball, and you trust yourself, and inside is fully white and there's no discoloration, yellowing, it's not too old, there's no holes and bugs and stuff in it, then yeah, you're generally pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna have to experiment with those more. And actually, Mike here was saying that he agrees with the puffballs. He says I put them in chicken noodle soup.
Yeah,
Come out
nice.
like little
Mikey.
chicken noodle soup flavored grapes. I like that.
See, Mike knows. You know what I'm thinking about right now? Rhubarb.
Oh,
Rhubarb's cool, right?
I
Yeah.
You mess
love
with rhubarb.
Oh
Yeah. So
we got a big
so
plant outside.
okay, so tell me about rhubarb then, because so in the spring rhubarb grows. How do you go about harvesting?
I just chop it.
Chop the big
When?
old stalks.
When do
When
you
it's
harvest
red.
it? When it's red?
Yeah,
Why?
when I
Yeah,
think
when-
about it.
Just because that's what we know.
Yeah, that's what my
Yeah.
mom always did.
That's what everyone does.
So when it's green, is it not ready?
It's probably ready, but it's probably
I
not.
haven't thought about
It's
it.
probably more sour.
Not necessarily. It's just as tender
Huh.
too.
Yeah,
See,
I know
there's a
when it
perfect
gets
moment.
when it gets too big, it gets all woody and it's not really ideal. So you get kind of like the pinky red stage and
Yeah.
take it down. But
And so when
I
it
don't know
gets too
more
big,
than
that's
that.
when it gets too big, that means that something else is happening on the plant, right? When it gets woody,
yeah,
something else is happening.
Yeah.
So you have to shift your attention. See, this is the way that I look at plants too. Like we have a piece of a plant that we really enjoy, and then we forget that the rest of the plant exists.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So rhubarb in the early spring produces these thin, a lot of the time, green shoots. Those you said umeboshi earlier. Do that. Fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with those green ones. When they're larger and fully green, that you can juice and use almost like a lemon juice replacement 1-to-1. You just juice that green rhubarb, put it in the freezer, and then pull it out of the freezer when it's a frozen block and put it in cheesecloth as a frozen block and let it drip slowly over a day into another container. That's called ice clarification. You're taking all the impurities out, they'll be left there, and you'll just have a crystal clear lemon juice replacement. We can move further on that in a moment, but that green stage is fantastic. Then the red rhubarb, awesome. A little bit sweeter, get a nice color from it, still nice and tart, really delicious. And then, like you said, it grows further and it gets woody. It's no good. So then rhubarb season's done, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Because that flower has came out. And rhubarb flowers are also good. You know, they're high in oxalates like the rest of the plant. So if you know yourself well enough to be able to eat oxalates in quantity and you're confident in it and comfortable with it, then it's like eating a slightly tangy, a little bit softer cauliflower, which is really interesting. And then that flower opens up and you get rhubarb seeds. And when they're immature green seeds, that is something special. They look
Really?
like little like cow parsnip seeds. They're that same shape, right? You've seen those before.
Yeah.
And you harvest them when they're green and tender, and you just eat them like that, and they're boom, little bursts of rhubarb in seed form.
Oh.
And you can throw them. You just throw them in salads, or like last year I was doing like a little tartare that I would like a beef tartare that I would dress in beef garum and then just like anoint with rhubarb seeds for acidity, and it adds a really nice texture, nice sourness, everything you need. A little pinch of salt and that's it. It's finished. So that's a great ingredient. So maybe rhubarb would be an underrated ingredient because we don't pay attention to the rest of the plant. And then, like I said, once you start to acknowledge a plant for what it is, the piece of the plant that you're after, and understand that there's more to a plant than just what you're harvesting, the whole world of plants changes in terms of food.
I like that.
I am so
And
excited.
that is huge because we overlook a lot of things, especially the things that might not be written down in that foraging book or in that gardening book. I know with rhubarb, I know there's like people are concerned about like literally poisoning themselves, right, with too much oxalic acid. So that's why I think is another reason why like everything you read online is like only use the stems, the leaf stems, the petioles, like. But
the careful
there's
way to
more.
do everything.
Yeah, I mean the highest concentration of oxalic acid would probably be in the root, just like with most plants. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty confident in that. And rhubarb root oil is used highly in really great restaurants all over the place to season like shellfish and things like that. It's really delicious, earthy, lightly tangy, really interesting of ingredients used all over the place. You know, the people that are, this is gonna sound wild too, but I'm just on one today. Sorry, guys. The people that are telling you like don't eat that because you're gonna poison yourself, or that's like super toxic, so don't touch it. And you know that it's kind of not. It's actually okay. Like this oxalates thing, if you are, you know yourself well enough to be able to handle that, and then you're good. Those people are usually writing those things with like a bag of chips from the gas station in their hand, and you know what I mean, full of poison, preservatives, toxic. Just the things that they're eating are likely even worse. So take what you hear with a grain of salt and understand where information is coming from, and then dive deeper into that information on your own and understand what they're actually trying to get across, because there's a lot of things I'm looking at a couple of field guides that I have. There's a lot of things that I have in there that have like a skull and crossbones beside it that
Oh no, we lost him for a sec.
Oh, I'm here. You hear me?
You're back. Yep.
You cut out at skull and crossbones.
Yeah, they have a lot of skull and crossbones on there. You cut out at that point.
Yeah, in those field guides that I eat on a regular basis.
Really?
And a lot of the world eats on a regular basis. You know, like a lot of those carrot family plants have toxic notes in them because they are phototoxic, but like the carrots in your garden don't, even though they are, right?
You're thinking about yellow parsnip or cow parsnip,
totally, all of the above. You know what I mean? Like there's again, going back to that trust in yourself.
I think a good example of that would be the cow parsnip, because like I've seen a video of you like literally skinning it with your teeth, and most people will say don't do that because when the juices get on your skin and the sunlight touches it, you might get some pretty bad scarring and burns. And I think that's true probably for some people, but that goes back to kind of knowing yourself, right? And
I think it is factually true that it contains phototoxins that when exposed to sunlight will cause a burn on your skin. I know that because every year I have little burns all over myself from harvesting. And there was one year, it was about 7 or 8 years ago, where I did the peeling thing and I got some on my face and I had a rash for 6 months on my face.
Okay.
Oh man.
Gee, yeah, I've heard it.
But you know what else you can do? Harvest in or out of direct sunlight.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. You can also go right to the river that it's growing beside and wash it off because it's water soluble, comes right off. There's so many things that you can do that will like allow you to pick comfortably. You don't need to worry. You just need to trust yourself and keep things in mind as you're going. Understand the plant and what harm it can do to you, and don't avoid things just because of something simple that can be treated easily and avoided easily.
Yeah, I like that. So I know we're getting kind of late for you, but I would really love to touch on field ants a little bit if you have time, because that is such a unique thing. It's not a mushroom, it's not a plant, but you like to forage for field ants. So tell us about that. Like, are all ants edible, first of all, or is there only specific ones people should be harvesting if they wanted to use them? And then like, what do they taste like?
All ants here are edible. Even those fire ants, they're edible.
Really?
I harvest a couple of different ones. We have like over 100 species of ants here. Some of them are native, some of them are non-native. I harvest the ones that taste good to me. There's a field ant and a black ant that I really enjoy. And specifically the field ant that makes those massive mounds on the landscape. You seen those before? Tripped over them before?
We've got lots of
Recently
those
just saw a
here.
huge one.
Yeah. So I'll like peel the top layer back and they're just going nuts in there. And then there's a couple of ways that you can harvest them. One, you can use like this little contraption that I have that is like it's like two straws that lead to a little catcher thing on the bottom.
Yeah.
Two straws. So you actually like suck in, and then there's a little like what do you call it? Screen on the other one. So like the ant comes in through the other straw, hits that screen and falls down into the bucket here, and you can just collect hundreds like crazy, right? That's a little contraption you can make for like $1.50 if you got a Home Depot or a Rona or something close by, a department store. So that's easy, but you can also like, I seen my buddy who was out in Vancouver doing this. He went to an ant mound, the same thing. He disrupted it, and then he took like pieces of cardboard. I don't have anything near me. He like took pieces of cardboard and laid them flat on the mound, and they would crawl all over it. And he would pick the cardboard up and just hit it into a 5-gallon bucket, put it back, and just keep on doing that. And he's collecting like crazy. And they bite and they hurt and it sucks, but it's all good because you have thousands of these ants.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do with them, right?
Yeah.
Well, you take them home and you put them right in the freezer, and they die without any like physical intervention. So what you're looking for from an ant is the flavor that comes from formic acid. Formic acid is interesting because it is sometimes compared to like lemon citric acid, right? It's not the same. Citric acid gives you like this drying sensation on the sides of your tongue. Formic acid is more like frontward in your mouth, which is really nice. But then at the back, it's got like this mushroomy, like you can tell you're eating an insect or an animal sort of thing, which is really nice flavor. And yeah, I mean, once they come out of the freezer, they're no longer moving, and as soon as you crush it, they excrete their defense mechanism, which is formic acid, and you have this amazing burst of whatever flavor that ant has within it. All ants have different flavors, all varieties of ants. So some of them, you know, taste like I've heard of places picking plants that taste like, or ants that taste like pineapples and mangoes and mushrooms specifically, and lemons like very clearly, and so many things in between. So I use them as a seasoning again, just like a few ants, or like put into a paste and muddled into to add a seasoning into desserts. It's great. You can use them to like curdle milk and make cheeses. There's so much, like it's my friend did this article on, I think he went to the Baltics. I could be wrong. I should know this, but I don't. He went somewhere where it was traditional to make yogurt using insects, ants, only ants. And he did that. He made like this beautiful yogurt traditionally with ants. And I mimicked that here, and it worked, and it was great. And had this like really interesting flavor that you didn't expect, but you know, much like what aromatics bring to things, some things like ants do as well. So, I mean, every year I'll harvest them. There's, of course, different moments in the year where you should. I like to do it when the ground warms up and they're fully active looking for food, because they're just going crazy all over the place. And they store almost indefinitely in the freezer. It's a weird
Do you
one to
ever
bring up to
like
people, but
dry them and powder them and use them in that kind of way too, or just in the freezer for storage?
no, because the formic acid dissipates once you start to, like, if you like muddle it up like fresh, or dry it or add heat or whatever, that formic acid just dissipates. It seems the only way to really harness the flavor is to use them fresh. I've been at a restaurant where they were literally taking them from the like they pick them and then they put them in the freezer for like 10 minutes until they're like very docile, and then they put them on your dessert and serve it to guests, so that as it warmed up at the table, they started like really walking around, and you're encouraged to eat as they woke up, right? and there's
Right.
beautiful bursts of flavor that come from that. You know, it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I've cooked for many thousands of people and served many hundreds of them at least ants, and there's only been one person at a dinner that wouldn't eat it. The rest of them were open to it and didn't
Yeah.
second guess it. So people are into it.
Yeah.
As weirded out as they are by insects, they are into it.
I mean, it's fun to try. I remember my uncle, when we were kids, gave my brother a fire ant and said, "Here, eat this."
Hmm.
But he didn't say you have to, like, chew. And so my brother just got stung
Yeah,
and spit
you
it
just
out.
put it.
But we were like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you just pick it up very gently so you don't squish it, and you put it in between your front teeth, like without it touching your lips, and you just bite down. And do it next time you're out. Just grab one of the ants and give it a shot. And if your tongue is pushed up against your back teeth, it'll probably bite you, and it feels like a little I don't know, like a stinging nettle sting almost.
Right.
Very quickly though, one that goes away. And yeah, you'll probably want to collect them, maybe not for sustenance, but for novelty or potentially for a legitimate ingredient in your pantry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference harvesting them? Like you said, you harvest them in the spring. Is there a flavor difference from spring to summer to fall?
Not with individual ants. No, they remain pretty much the same through the whole process. If anything, or through the whole year. If anything, they get a little bit less flavorful.
Interesting.
Like maybe there's less excretion of formic acid as the year goes on, but don't quote me on that. It's just what I've experienced.
Okay.
So cool. So cool, man. And you said all of them are edible where you are. Canada, I assume it's probably pretty similar here in the US. Is there a species, like, how do you even learn about that? How do you learn the 100 species of ants?
It's hard, man. There's not a lot of information out there. And then like there's no app that's gonna, like, you can take a picture of something and it'll tell you what species of ant you have. You have to like do like you take like macro shots or like really get in there and look at it super close, which is so weird to look at. Like looking at these bugs super close, there's so much more to them than what we see with our eye. But you just break it down and just look for comparisons, and eventually you'll find the species that you want. You can also go to like maybe a university near you has an expert somewhere, and they're always happy to help you. But as for me, it was like a lot of just like research until I found what I needed and could confirm. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's super
super cool. Well, if you have time, I have two more questions. One, I'm gonna let Lindy ask if she wants, or I'll do it, because this is one of mine that I thought was super interesting. And that was, I saw a post by you where you talked about invasive sauce. that really caught my attention. So I'm like, what is the philosophy behind invasive sauce, and how can people kind of make their own version of it?
Let me tell you about that one. So I had a buddy, I still have a buddy. His name is Al. Awesome guy. He and I did a pop-up, what was it, last year? I think it was 2 years ago, where we just made smash burgers for a whole whack of people. We prepped for like 500 people and set up in behind a brewery. And the goal was to like serve people good smash burgers that didn't exist here and still don't exist here on the island, but also to show a little bit of something else off. And that was this invasive sauce that I came up with. And basically we took like a traditional like burger sauce. The components of it is like the, that like mustard, ketchup, chopped pickles, chopped onion. That's that sauce that you mix together, and that's burger sauce or whatever. I basically took that and broke it down to all the components that were in it and all the ingredients that were in it, and then went out onto my landscape and found things that matched that. And the majority of them happened to be invasives, which was super cool. A lot of them in the mustard family. And I made this sauce that was like a green sauce, that tasted exactly like a burger sauce, made entirely of invasive ingredients in my area, which was
So
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it. And we just served that on the burger. And people loved it, and nobody asked questions, but invasive sauce became like a running gag for a while, because I don't know if I could ever duplicate it. I could get close, I think, but like I fell onto something that was like really fun. And my goal was to, because our invasive species council, sort of the people that are in charge of it, kind of just pull things, put them in black garbage bags, and send them off to the landfill.
Yeah.
And
Or
like,
leave
it
it
is what
laying
it is.
around.
Yeah, or leave it out in the sun to whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool, but like,
To continue go to seed. I've seen that.
you know, and like often
Yeah.
things are harvested like improperly too. Like they're gonna pull a bunch of garlic mustard, and like if you break a garlic mustard root, it's gonna grow exponentially over the next year again, and you're just gonna make it worse. It's gonna spread, right? You need to like excavate the area, and even then, it's very likely that you're gonna like break a root and it's just gonna spread again. Knotweed too, impossible to get rid of, right? They're just gonna either spray it with something or pull it or like lay a black sheet down or whatever. It's not going to work. Anyways, they would bring stuff, and other groups as well, not just this one. No shame to them, they do great work, but they would just kind of go from the field to the graveyard, and that was it. There was no in between. There's many restaurants and chefs that should be using these things. If you're going to pull them to get rid of, why not just give them to somebody who can use them? So I went out and harvested these things on my own and cleared areas of invasive species properly, the way that I know how, and then serve them to hundreds of people. And it was great. So why can't other people do that? Well, I only did it once. I didn't follow up with anybody, but I was hoping that would kind of catch on a little bit, but I'm not sure that it did. People don't have the same like food mentality, food focus. What's that?
Well,
that's pretty sweet though. I mean, I'm thinking of the state land that's kind of next to us. Somebody put up a sign that said, please help us remove this invasive thistle, you know? And so they waited until it was in the flowering stage, and they ripped a whole bunch of it out of the ground from this spot, and they moved all of it to this field over here, and they left it there. So it all went to seed, and now the entire field is that thistle, the whole thing, where it wasn't there before. So they took like the 20 stalks that were there, put them all there, and now it's a whole field.
Yeah.
But what they were in charge of was that area where the thistles were. And that area where the thistles were looks great now. There's nothing there, right?
Yeah.
But over
the rest of
there,
it
not so much,
so
right?
Much
so
better
crazy.
to utilize them, put them in the belly, kept them properly digested, and
I think so.
Rid of the landscape.
Yeah.
Apparently, what do I know? I don't know nothing.
Yeah. Who are you?
But I mean, invasive sauce. I think you should start a trend with that. People listening, make your own invasive sauce at home. That's
seriously. Yeah.
So, last question I have for you would be, what is your top advice for the beginner forager?
I mean, there's a lot of things. Like, if that beginner forager is, actually, you know what? Now that I break this down, here's the answer. Know what you're foraging for, and I don't mean literal plants, what you're foraging for, but like literally, why are you out foraging? What's your intention? What's the point? Are you doing it just because? Are you doing it because you want to put interesting foods into your pantry? Are you doing it because you have an interest in plant identification? Are you doing it because there's a restaurant down the road that wants to serve something? Are you doing it because you want to show your kids something? Are you doing it, why are you doing it? What's the intention? Once you have that intention can change over time. But understand that intention and then run with that and forage accordingly. For me, I have a food focus, right? It's not to remove invasives. It's not to go out and teach the world about how to identify plants and all this. It's not about that at all. It's about finding delicious food in my area that I can share with the people around me. If anybody else wants to join, that's great. But it's ultimately about my community and the people around me, how I can show them how to find food on the landscape right here. That's my intention. You have a different one. You have a different one, I'm sure. So know your intention, why you're doing it, and then build from there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. This is a question I try to ask everyone, and that's one I haven't heard. I haven't heard it get
that's a
answered in that
great
way.
answer.
And that is right, because I think that's especially true for beginners, because they, thinking back when I'm, started, it's like you get overwhelmed because there's so much out there, and that still is true to this day, honestly. And having an intention can kind of ground you, and you can be happy with just identifying those 2 plants a year and foraging those. You don't have to feel like you have so much to learn, and it's also complicated. And because I mean, that's the biggest thing I always hear people say is like, well, I want to start foraging, but there's just so many plants, and it's, what if I eat a poisonous one? And just have that intention, whatever it is for you, and then follow suit that way. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then go from there. And also don't compare yourself to people online.
Yeah.
I mean, in any facet of anything that you're looking up.
Like if
you guys know,
if I'm like, I want to be as cool with experimenting as Nick here, it's never going to happen, because you do it every day for your job. Like, you're so in it.
But also what I'm saying, like, but understanding that online, on Instagram specifically, and TikTok and whatever, people blow up really easy. You can overnight get, another 100,000 people on your, like, following you because you posted one thing. Yeah. And then you look at that one thing and it's like, well, that was actually like not right or whatever. But now you have a herd of people behind you that are following your every word. Yeah, so understanding that there are people online that just like blow up, and a lot of the information's wrong or a lot of the information is right. There are people that are totally deserving of it, but then there's other people that, it's not that way. You know what I mean? It's not the way they're portraying. So take everything you see, especially online, as surface level as you can, and then dive deeper on your own into those things.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the thing that their journey is different from your journey too. It's like, I don't know if you follow like fitness influencers at all. I love it. Mm-hmm. It's like one of my favorite contents. I don't know why, but it's like one person says that, a squat is the only way to do anything ever. You can never do anything other than squats at the gym. And the next person's like, cardio is the only thing you never do. Like, it's the same thing with the foraging world of like, you can only eat dandelions this one way. There's no other way to do it. And then somebody else is like, you're an idiot. So
100,000% I'm with you. And in the fitness world, going on that, the only person you should listen to is Sam Sulik. So that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Love Sam Sulik.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think you should follow Urs around. So.
Oh yeah. There you go.
We love Urs.
Yeah, he's actually one of my good friends from Germany. I was one of his OG early fitness partners.
Yeah,
really,
it's great. Yeah, it's great to see him go where he has gone.
Oh no way!
He's so cool.
He is as authentic as he seems, which is pretty awesome.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, man, Nick, I think, people listening to this today, there's a lot we talked about. There's a lot that's maybe even a bit high level for the home chef, but I think if anything, it really shows how you can experiment with these flavors in the wild, and that there's so much more out there than you think, for food, for flavor, for information, even like you were saying with the rhubarb. I mean, that's something I hear for the first time, that you can use your rhubarb seeds and all that. So everyone listening, I would definitely take this convo and kind of use it to just broaden your horizon, how you think about the things that are out there. And it's very motivating, like for me, just hearing you going out and learn, like looking at all these ant species, and it gets me fired up to get out there and really dive more into the nitty gritty as well. So
what I'm hearing is we're eating ants this year.
Please do. I'm gonna be watching. That's amazing. In the words of Sam Thayer, I have been blessed with a continuity of interest for my whole life, right? So I've been interested in this since I can remember. 3 years old, picking sorrel in the grass. When you're now 30 years into it, technically, you should be like pretty good at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So if somebody's listened to this conversation and they're like 5 years into their journey or something like that, like, don't worry, slow down. You're all good. Learn slowly, absorb, learn at your own speed. And there's no time constraints here. So figure out what's delicious to you and then share it with somebody close.
I love that. And yeah, thanks for putting all your content out there and teaching. I know I've heard you say that, teaching is very important to you. And I think especially in this subject matter, it's incredibly important that, I mean, a big reason for me doing this podcast and just any of our content that we do is like keeping that food knowledge alive, man. Like making sure we don't just succumb to, Franken foods that are made in a factory, and keeping those traditions and rediscovering a lot of it, which is what you're doing. Wake up. I'm sure there is, back in the day, there were people that were using wild foods the way you are, just because of all this experimentation and curiosity that you bring to the table. And we need more of that. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Where can people find you online? Where can they learn more about you?
North on Instagram, I'm super active. You can message anytime and I'll pretty much always respond unless it's silly. Is what it is. And then Monday night, my episode of Wild Fed with Daniel Vitalis comes out on the Outdoor Channel.
Sweet.
I don't know
I'm excited.
when this I mean, this is live, so it's going to come up right away.
Yeah. It'll be live on YouTube
as
right
we
speak.
speak.
I'm going to try to get it out on Monday on the audio side. So
amazing. Well, I in that may or may not have taken him to pick cow parsnip and maybe ants as well, potentially. So I hope that you guys watch, and if you don't, it's all good. And thanks for having me. This was fun. We can do it again if you want.
Super fun.
Yeah, I'd love to do it again because I had so many more questions for you that we didn't even get to.
How about later this year? Like once you're deep into the foraging season.
That would be great.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And actually, I'm helping organize a wild food fest here right now in Montana called Feral Feast. And hopefully year one goes well, and maybe 2027, 2028 we could even get you out here, because it's the main focus is like the culinary side, and we're having chefs come out and do demos and cook samplers and stuff like that. So man, it'd be awesome to have you here sometime. I don't know how far. You're probably pretty far though. Are you pretty far from
Montana?
Yeah.
Are you like an hour or two?
I'm like I'm 12 kilometers off of the mainland New Brunswick. I'm like maybe from here a 4-hour drive to the very northeastern tip of Maine.
Okay. Yeah.
You're just a few hours.
Maybe it's worth it. Maybe you can combine it with something else.
I'm good. Yeah. I love it. Cool. So I'll take you up on that, and good luck with that. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And thanks for everyone who dropped things in the live chat and watched live today. We had definitely a good amount of people watching, so that's exciting.
Nice. Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for being here.
All right. Bye. And yeah, stick around for 1 sec once we're done here. Bye. We're gonna end the stream now.